Hello and welcome to the WARC Podcast. My name's Alex Brownsill and I'm the head of content for WARC Media. Today we're going to be talking about a company for whom advertising is a mere side hustle, yet has grown incredibly to become the third largest seller of advertising in the world. Amazon, of course, is the subject of the latest Platform Insights report from our WARC Media service. As some of you may know, we recently made some changes to the way in which we cover the fast-growing retail media space. As content and commerce converge, WARC Media will be launching a dedicated editorial program to all things retail media. And where better to begin than with a deep dive into the industry's very own 10-ton gorilla. I'm delighted to say that I'm joined today by lead editor on our Amazon report, Celeste Wang, media insights analyst at WARC Media. Welcome, Celeste.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks for having me.
So you've been working on these reports for a couple of years now. How did you find the challenge of approaching Amazon compared to some of the sort of social video platforms that we've traditionally tackled in Platform Insights?
Yeah, so this Amazon one is certainly quite different from what we've done before at WARC Media, which is mainly be social platforms like TikTok, Snapchat, anything you can think of, the digital platform. The complexity of Amazon's offering and its vast portfolio are interesting enough by themselves, but it's really the ad ecosystem that unite all its offerings, make it relevant and honestly lots to learn from. You have Amazon as the giant of e-commerce and leading retail media network, but equally its streaming TV offerings and offsite DSPs are growing really fast. And according to our annual WARC Marketers Toolkit survey, Amazon ranked as the third platforms that marketers most likely to increase investment with in 2025, just behind YouTube and TikTok. So that's definitely something very interesting to look at.
Yeah, well, there's a lot happening here. Amazon is a very popular, increasingly popular platform from an advertising standpoint. We're going to get into that, but we have to be strict. This is a 3 in 15 podcast, which means 3 key insights in 15-ish minutes. So let's dive straight into those numbers. Now, we mentioned at the top, Amazon's now the third largest seller of advertising in the world, behind Alphabet and Meta, of course. So, Celeste, how big are we talking?
Huge. So the 3 largest media owners in the world, Alphabet, Amazon, Meta, we just mentioned, the trio, they already control over half of global ad market. According to our latest global ad spend forecast, just done in the first quarter this year. At WARC Media, we forecast Amazon's retail media revenue, so we put that in the front, and we expect it to exceed $60 billion this year and further climb to near $70 billion next. This will equal 1/4 of global retail media revenue. And in the meantime, retail media is growing as the fastest media channel of all, even slightly ahead of connected TV. So one thing to note is that Amazon ads remain a small percentage of its total income sheet so far. You've mentioned that in the beginning, with that service accounting for just under 10% of its overall revenue. However, if you track its ad growth versus its total revenue growth, as we found in the report, Amazon's ad service has been growing well above the total for the last few quarters. So in Q1 this year, its year-on-year ad revenue growth was near 18% compared to just 8.6% for its total revenue. So in the context of economic uncertainty resulting from cross-border tariffs, advertising has really become an important contributor to profitability, which is something the company has acknowledged in its latest earnings call.
Yeah, this is an interesting thing we're seeing, particularly with retail media at the moment. I think Walmart, expressed something similarly, that the profit that the companies are able to drive from advertising is helping to smooth the bumpiness in other parts of the business. I think Walmart even suggested that advertising revenue might be able to help them, maintain price consistency at a time of tariffs. But Amazon is going, I guess it's the pioneer in a lot of elements of retail media. And the report talks about how it's steadily diversifying the way in which it earns those advertising dollars. What started primarily as a paid search business, things like sponsored product, sponsored brand, is moving up the funnel into display formats, notably through extensions like Prime Video, Twitch. It's really led on the deployment of that all-important first-party customer data into off-site environments like Meta, like Pinterest, And by the way, if you want more on what we mean by offsite in retail media, check out a new article that we published recently, a Retail Media Unpacked, and an accompanying podcast on that very subject. But Celeste, back to the point. What are the key trends that we're seeing in the makeup of Amazon's ad revenue and how that's shifting?
Yeah, that's definitely a very interesting part and big part we're focusing on in this report. But before we get to that, I just want to say the Retail Media Unpack series is really good. I found it so helpful and really clear, easy to understand. Definitely check that out. Coming back to this report, Amazon Platform Insights. So in this report, we featured data from Omdia, owned by WARC parent company Informa Group, and discovered some interesting trends about its ad makeup. So the question is about what is shifting. So we're gonna focus on that. Let's first talk about format. So search and display, essentially. While Amazon's core offering has been search, display is found to be growing faster than search. And by the end of this year, according to the data, we found that Amazon will have double the size of its display ad revenue over the last 4 years if we use indexed figures. What does this mean? So it's a clear indication that brands are being drawn to Amazon's expanding video and audio offering, which naturally brings us to the next point, Prime Video. Of course, it's a key driver of its streaming TV growth. When combining all its connected TV offerings, including here Prime Video, Fire TV, Freevee, and Twitch, across platforms and devices, and here we're talking about cross-connected TV device, tablet, PC, mobile, it's forecast to account for a tenth of Amazon's total advertising earnings in 2025. Then there's the more convoluted side of things, on-site and off-site ad offerings. So off-site retail media enables brands to use first-party retail data across premium publishers and social platforms. And for Amazon, it's a great solution to diversify its ad revenue other than search or on-site placement. And Omdia data shows that its offsite share of ad revenue nearly doubled since 2020, although that offsite figure is still at single digit. So to put things in perspective.
Yeah, I mean, it's still, the majority of Amazon's revenue then is coming from the on-site placements, but a lot more of the growth seems to be happening in that off-site space. Yeah, and we definitely think that is one to keep an eye on. In each of our Platform Insights reports, we look at a media owner through the prism of investment, consumption, and performance. That second viewpoint, consumption, is harder to isolate in retail media, given we're often talking about online shopping rather than someone scrolling through Instagram or watching TikTok videos. So Celeste, what is there to say about usage of Amazon as an e-commerce platform?
So using data providers like SimilarWeb, Ofcom, and Ipsos, we found that the visits and the sheer number of users to Amazon retail sites remain large and stable across the years, across the UK and the global markets, with an average of 2.5 billion visitors per month globally. Although Chinese-owned retailers such as Temu and Shein are fast-growing across markets, they're still not enough to rival Amazon in terms of visits and popularity of usage.
Yeah, no, Amazon's still very much the biggest game in town. So, from an e-commerce perspective, they're leading. But let's look at the media side, and there are of course parts of the Amazon ecosystem that look much more familiar from a media perspective. Amazon made a very big splash roughly 18 months ago when it introduced advertising as standard on Prime Video. So users have to pay more for an ad-free experience. This is different from a lot of the SVOD companies which have offered advertising as a sort of almost cut price tier. This immediately gave Amazon a sizable global TV advertising audience, in excess of 200 million. But how does viewing on Prime Video stack up against the competition, Celeste?
Yeah, definitely. When Amazon made Prime members automatically qualify for ad-supported viewing on Prime, I think it made a splash among advertisers among SVOD streaming service. Everyone start to rethink this approach. And with global audience of over 200 million people, that's very promising to scale mass reach in the video-on-demand environment and to reach those video ad audiences. The Nielsen Gauge data in the US suggested that Amazon ranked third in terms of the country's share of viewing of streaming services, just behind YouTube and Netflix. And that share number is around 3.5%.
Yeah, YouTube and Netflix are still the biggest games in town. There's a great chart in the report. I think it's worth highlighting, showing how Prime members use the various services available to them. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I think the chart you're talking about is from Kantar. Kantar's World Panel data showed a strong correlation between Prime members' usage of service and Prime Video subscriptions. Essentially, in the holiday season last year, and so you're talking about Q4 2024, Amazon's peak shopping moments actually helped Prime Video to top new paid subscriptions, and it overtook Apple TV Plus and peaked in its market share in the UK. And if you get to read the full report, you will see how the global data reveals that among younger cohorts, the usage of Prime Videos actually overtook Prime Delivery in holiday seasons.
Okay, well, let's look beyond Prime Video for a moment then. So Twitch, that's another major platform within Amazon's ecosystem, but one that's maybe not talked about quite as much at the moment as it maybe has been in previous years, or maybe that's just me. What does the report tell us about what's happening on Twitch?
So yeah, Twitch has always been known as that unique position where it's mostly as gaming and live streaming. However, as it's part of Amazon's ad system, it is a strong gateway to reach Gen Z and Gen Alpha. And now we have this new term called Gen Zalpha. And to have their
Zalpha.
engagement.
I've never heard that one before.
So you're combining two most interesting, intriguing group to marketers nowadays. So Twitch is definitely a great gateway as it also sits within the Amazon ad ecosystem. More than 60% of global gaming content watched online was on Twitch, according to the latest data from the company. So that is opportunity.
Yeah, very much seems to still have a really strong role within the gaming ecosystem and I guess the live streaming side of things, which is something that maybe we didn't get to explore hugely in the report, but the live streaming is still, a part of what Twitch does.
Yeah, definitely.
There's one more area I think we need to touch on, and that's how Amazon fits into the wider media landscape. So for a long time, retail media was siloed off from other parts of media planning, generally handled by shopper or trade marketing or even e-commerce teams. Brand marketers, if I'm to use something of a sweeping generalization, haven't shown as much interest in retail media as they might have done, despite generally quite the high levels of enthusiasm and engagement among consumers. Celeste, what evidence do we find on this sort of point?
So global consumers generally prefer Amazon very much, as they ranked it as the top preferred media brands last year, joining with TikTok. And that is data from Kantar's annual media reactions study. But as they ranked Amazon as the top preferred media brands with TikTok, we have to imagine for different reasons, ads on Amazon are viewed much more relevant and useful with a high degree of trustworthy. So those are quite important qualities for marketers to consider. But if you actually look at the results, the survey results from marketers, that is not really the case. Amazon didn't make into the top 5 list with marketers as their preferred media brands. And global marketers deem Amazon ads lower in attention delivering quality compared to its ad peers, say like Netflix, Instagram, and TikTok. Although Amazon has emphasized its increasing investment in AI innovation and more advanced creative tools across display, audio, and video ad formats to help advertisers better target its audience.
Yeah, it does seem symptomatic of a bit of a disengagement from certain parts of the marketing community. I think the other interesting point from the report on this is that brands might be neglecting to understand the impact that their digital ad investments are having on conversions on Amazon, actual sales driven through Amazon. So, this is something that we showcased in the report and shared some interesting data from Phosphor.
Yeah, that is a very interesting piece of research. By only looking at D2C conversion, one is discounting the whole picture of upper funnel investment on online sales. The Phosphor study found that platforms like Meta, TikTok, and YouTube actually plays a vital role in driving brands' Amazon sales. To give you an example, TikTok's D2C only return on ad spend was 2.4. But when Amazon revenue was taken into account, the RAS actually increased to 4.2. So almost doubled. So that's one example of the halo effect of different channels that can offer marketers new perspectives on how digital ad dollars can positively impact conversions on Amazon.
Yeah, I think it's an important piece of research, and I think it's going to show over time. I think we are going to see a lot more integration between what's happening on Amazon and what's happening in social channels or elsewhere, and that de-siloing impact will hopefully make these things work a lot more effectively. Well, thank you, Celeste. I'm afraid that's all we have time for today. WARC Media subscribers can access the full Platform Insights report and go and access the full story on Amazon. If you like what you've heard, please do follow us on your favourite podcasting platform. And if you really liked it, please do go on and leave us a review. Until next time, thanks for listening.